Hey there, side hustlers. Welcome back to the Side Hustle Lawyer channel. I'm Larry Mike, your side hustle lawyer, and I've got something a little different, a little special to share with you all today. It's a bit different from our legal education and business tips. Today, I'm just going to open up and share some personal stories about business chaos, resilience, and ultimately some valuable lessons. You see, as lawyers, we often find ourselves navigating the legal complexities of our clients' problems. We provide solutions, guidance, and structure. But what happens when the chaos isn't just on the other side of the desk? What happens when we, as legal professionals, are faced with our own tumultuous challenges in the business world? In today's video, I want to take you on a journey through my own experience with business chaos. It's a story that I believe many of you can relate to. Whether you're just starting your side hustle, juggling multiple legal responsibilities, or maybe even contemplating making the leap into entrepreneurship. So sit back, relax, and join me as I share my own trials and tribulations, the pivotal moments that tested my resolve, and the lessons I've learned along the way. I hope that my story can offer you some insight, inspiration, and a sense of camaraderie as we navigate the sometime turbulent waters of side hustle entrepreneurship. Now, without further ado, let's dive into my personal journey through business chaos. As a lawyer, one of the things that lawyers charge for is their time. Time is the commodity. Time is the ultimate precious thing that you can never get back. Time is the one thing that lawyers say to do this problem for you, to write this brief for you. This is how much I'm going to charge for my time. The downside of time, at least in a day, is it's finite. It's not infinite. So you only get 24 hours a day, but out of those 24 hours, you spend 6 to 8 hours sleeping, you spend a few hours eating, you spend a few hours commuting, and you only have a limited amount of time to actually complete work. So the downside of time is, where do you get more of it? And as a lawyer, for me at times, it's tough struggling with a 9 to 5, which sometimes becomes a 6 to 10 at times, but you have that time frame where you're juggling that job while juggling the side gig, trying to make that work, and then trying to figure out throughout the way, how do you find some time trimming tactics to make every single second count in this conundrum we call life? And that, my friends, is a difficult prospect that I deal with on a daily basis. It's trying to figure out, where can I trim time from here to make this work? There's been times where at one point in my life, I had over 174 clients active while trying to juggle a side hustle. And I gotta tell you, it was like one of the worst times in my life. One, because every single day was dictated by my schedule, and my schedule was constantly booked. And at times where I thought that I had the schedule perfectly synced up to match, things would go haywire. I mean, in any given situation, Murphy's Law applies. I mean, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And you always have to plan for not only plan A, but plan B, plan C, plan D, and so forth. And so I had to figure out, what can I utilize to make this process better? The one thing that I did for that process, especially with time management, is finding some automated tools to help me with my success. One of the things that I started utilizing was a calendar that I could send out to clients. And if there were any issues, and mind you, when you have clients who you deal with in family law, it is an emotional time for them. So much so because you have folks who at one point in their life believed that they would have a forever. And they're quickly realizing that that forever is no longer the forever. It is coming to an end. So they have a ton of emotions that have built up, and they have no one to release those emotions to. And the only person who is there helping them is the one who receives the brunt of all of the emotions, which is their attorney. Now, they call us counselors, but I got to tell you, I don't have a degree in counseling. But the majority of my day when I had a bunch of clients was dealing with and hearing out people who just had these emotions. And I had to just let them get it out, whatever anger they had, and then bring them back to the process of this is what we need to focus on. But I started using this automated calendar, which I would send out to people, and they would be able to put in a time that they wanted to speak and however much time it was there. And it started to work immensely for my time management, because everything that was going wrong when I was inputting on my own calendar and trying to put out fires, it started to limit those fires, because then people knew, hey, he's free on this time. Now, granted, there are some outliers out there of certain clients who they don't care. I mean, there were times where when I had COVID and I was sick, and I had a client who, oh, you've got COVID? Oh, I'm sorry for you, but hey, here's my issue. You'll still have those. But for me, effective time management helped at least a little bit of trying to figure out that juggling act of what do I do and what can I do. The other thing with that is, when I told you that, sometimes it'd go 9 to 5 or 6 to 10, it was my work-life balance. Being a lawyer is not as glamorous as the TV shows make it look like. Yeah, you get to wear suits. I mean, you get to go into the courtroom, and I hear folks who say, oh, I've always wanted to be a lawyer because everyone in my family says I can argue really well. That's great, but that's not everything that a lawyer is doing. In fact, you're trying your darndest not to have to argue. What you're trying to do is convince the other side that whatever that issue is that you believe it should be a certain way, should be that way. Most of the time, it's compromising between both sides, especially in family law with the emotions that are heated. The last thing you need are two lawyers who are heated at each other. I mean, at the end of the day, clients come and go, but the lawyer community is a pretty small one. And so we have to work together consistently. Now, you do have some lawyers out there who they're known for being aggressive and being hard to work with. And their cases are very difficult. One, that difficulty, what it does is it hits the client's pocketbook, because that difficulty doesn't make anyone want to compromise or settle or work things out in favor of the clients. So they just drag on and on and on, which causes more money for those folks. But in those particular cases, they tend to take up the majority of your time. So you can have 100 plus clients, but you may have 2 or 3 cases that are just litigious for no reason, only because someone is emotional. And that messes up your work-life balance, because when you should be getting home at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, or going to your kids' games or cheerleading competitions, you're stuck in the office dealing with a case because you've got people on the other side who just don't want to look at reality. And so for me as a lawyer, it's trying to figure out that balance of working too much and letting that work life take over, and then getting burnt out. And I got to tell you, there was a time where I got burnt out. It was just enough. You show up to work in the morning and you're like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, why did I go to school for this? I would rather work at Starbucks than deal with this. And not to say that working at Starbucks is a bad thing, but the mindset is there's so much stress, there's so much overwhelming pressure that you just want to do something else. And so it's trying to find that balance. How do we take that mindset of, oh, I can't do this thing that I studied for years for, that I'm good at because I'm done with it? So my goal was to, you know what are the issues here? Let's identify them and let's figure out a path forward to make life easier. So number one thing I did was, you know what? We're going to cut clients. Like, we're going to cut all that unnecessary air in the space and just bring it back to something that is truly manageable. And that's what I've done. And managing that has allowed me to not only find a good work-life balance between work, the side hustle, and life. And getting those together and in some kind of congruent fashion, I'm able to live life healthier. I'm able to focus on myself. And every day I wake up, it's not a, why am I doing this? It's a, I can't wait to do this. Or here's a new idea that I had, and I have time to be able to incorporate that and bring that into my life. And then one more thing that has been something that has stuck out to me is customers, right? We see some of these big brand names and they have these loyal followings. And right, for side hustlers, you may have little niche businesses that you run that you'll never gain the loyalty of fans that, you know, Android has, or that Apple has, or that certain other groups have, because yours is just this little niche in its own center of its own universe. But for me, it was like, okay, we got a new customer. How do we turn them into a loyal customer? What do we do to make them someone who will follow us and be like, hey, this is a great product. I want to keep utilizing them. That was a struggle that I had for the longest time. I mean, it was like putting out, you have someone purchase something and you're like, hey, can you leave us a Google review? And then folks are like, no, I don't want to leave a Google review. The only ones who ever do really leave Google reviews are people who get upset. You're like, look, I've had all these customers who have been happy. Can we get one of you to do something? And so trying to navigate those, it was, what can I do to encourage them to leave a Google review? So I just started asking customers. Once they purchase, and hey, you happy with this? Do you like this? And they're like, yeah, I love it. Could you leave a Google review? And some of them would be like, oh, okay, sure, I'll leave a Google review, and then nothing. So then I started reaching out and saying, hey, you know, why won't you leave a Google review? Like, what does it make you want to leave one? And, you know, you'd get various answers on folks where it's just like, not enough time, or just there wasn't enough interest. So what we started doing was, I guess you could say, incentivizing. I mean, for folks who would leave certain things or they'd purchase something, hey, leave us a Google review. You'll get entered into this drawing, or leave us a Google review and, you know, you have a chance to get however much percentage off. But doing whatever we could to encourage folks to say, hey, this is a good product, because our belief is that one of the best advertising pieces for any business, I mean, it's not things that you produce, it's what customers say about it. Because the majority of folks who see anything about a business or product, they go and look at the reviews. And if those reviews convince them to purchase that product, then they're going to purchase that product. So that's just a brief glimpse of what goes on in my life and the challenges that I face. I mean, yes, you know, we throw out the good ideas and we throw out things to help other side hustlers, but know that you're not alone. Even myself and others, we are feeling the brunt of it. We are human just like you, and we're just chugging along, trying to make it succeed. So if you ever feel you're down in the dumps or anything is just not working right, just don't give up. Use that setback as a setup for a comeback to be something great. Anyone can do it. That's it for this edition of Side Hustle Lawyer. If you like the content that we put out, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and share with each and every side hustler out there. We are here for you and we want you to succeed. Thanks.